Hello, hello. No, it's not going to screw it up. Okay. Good morning to you team members that are joining us this morning. We're just going to give it another minute or two and we'll get started. Okay, good morning ICW group. Welcome to your CX Leadership Town Hall with our guest speaker, Shawn Adams. As you can see on our screen today, we're going to be playing some bingo. So make sure that you have your bingo card downloaded from the iPortal site. Keep it handy with you for each of your sessions today. Keep your ears open for those buzzwords because when you hear one, you want to put an X in the box. And when you get bingo, you're going to follow the instructions at the bottom of the card and be entered into a raffle for a prize. We'll be ending today's town hall with a Q&A session. Please remember to keep your questions CX related. You don't have to wait till the end of the presentation to submit your questions. Simply go to your chat button at the bottom of your screen, select our co-host, Kyle Dunlap, and send your questions directly to Kyle. And don't worry, if we don't have time to get through all your questions, we'll send the unanswered ones over to HR, and they'll answer them for us at a future date. We'd like to remind you to keep your phones muted and your video off during your entire session today. In order to get the full impact of our presentation, we also suggest that you turn your view to speaker view. And on that note, just so you know who I am, my name's Jamie Fullerton, and I'll be your host for today's session. So on that note, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Shawn Adams to the screen. Take it away, Shawn.
Thanks, Jamie. So I'm Shawn Adams. I'm a senior VP here, and there are 4 areas that we focus on my side of the company: earthquake, assumed reinsurance, ceded reinsurance, and enterprise risk management. So for earthquake, we build relationships with wholesalers who then work with their agents to provide commercial earthquake insurance to companies. On the assumed re side, and assumed reinsurance in a nutshell is insurance for insurance companies. So here we build relationships with reinsurance intermediaries who market reinsurance treaties to insurance companies. And then we also purchase reinsurance on behalf of ICW, thereby protecting ourselves against large shock losses like earthquake, for example. And then there's the Enterprise Risk Management Department, who develops tools and software to support our lines of business. So in addition to this rigorous career, I have a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old So life is very, very busy. And like many of you, I feel like I have very little time. You know those phone calls when they're like, hey, do you want to refinance your mortgage? I get them off in mid-sentence. No, thanks, goodbye. Or you get those surveys, please fill out the survey and we'll pay you $100. I don't think twice, they just delete. So I'm very protective of my time. But there is one company that I volunteer my time for, and it is not a charity. It's Audible. They sell audiobooks. You probably know of them. They're one of the companies that is owned by Amazon. And I'm actually on the Audible sounding board, which is basically an improvement committee. And if you know me, you will remember that I'm not a fan of committees. So, by the way, you can thank me for the ability to speed up or slow down the narrator's speech in the increments of 10%. You're welcome. So anyway, it got me thinking, how did this quirky little app penetrate my time protection shield? And I'll answer this, but before I do, let me talk about my top 10 list on how to be a good friend. So, number one, people like people who like them. So find things that you like about your friends. And number two, take an interest in the detail of their lives. Three, while doing one and two, you need to be real. Four, you want to make them feel wanted. Something like, you're an awesome friend really goes a long way. Number five, make time for your friend. Number six, be dependable. Number seven, check in on them. Number eight, give good advice. Number nine, empathize. And number 10, show kindness with small gestures. So, how did this quirky app penetrate my time protection shield? They kind of became my friend. Let's take some items from that list that I just went over. They're interested in the things that I'm interested in. Yes, Audible has a great selection, and because I picked the books, it's very interesting. Make time for your friend. Well, it's fast and easy app, gives me more time for studying good books, and I can speed up narration. Gives me good advice. Thanks for the great recommendations, Audible. They are always, like Amazon, always suggesting additional recommendations. Next one is be dependable. They're there for me even at 3 a.m. when I can't sleep because I'm thinking about work. Empathy. So on Audible, if you start a book and you don't like it, you can return it in 3 clicks, no questions asked. Thank you, Audible, for understanding me. Show kindness with small gestures. Well, Audible sends me free Wall Street Journal articles and periodically free business books. Thank you, Audible. Makes me feel wanted. And maybe they cross the line here because they do email me on my personal email every day with what is new. So a bit of stalking here, but we'll let that one slide for now. So they really got my emotions by providing a great customer experience. So I kind of came up with this friend score. So my Audible friend score, I said on a scale of 1 to 10, they're about a 6.5. And that's significantly better than some of my human friends, actually. Anyway, back to insurance. Insurance in general has kind of been stigmatized as mostly like an us versus them mentality. The whole bend the truth on the application so you can pay as little as possible. And if you ever have a claim, you kind of want to stick it to the insurance company and reap a windfall, sometimes lawyering up. Anyway, this relationship of us versus them, it isn't good. And changing the mindset from that us versus them to something like a friendship or something that even a partnership is a worthy goal. And I think about these two tracks. These are very, very different people. If someone wakes up and says to themselves, every day I go to work and I have to fight with my brokers over price and coverage, or every day I go to work and I help my friends solve their insurance needs. These are dramatically different lives when you extend this out for a number of years. So you don't always get to choose your situation, but you do get to choose your perspective. So what does customer experience look like from my perspective? It's largely about creating emotional connections like friendship, for example. So going back to the list in terms of how it could be applied on the insurance side, people like people who like them. So you can hire team members who are maybe a people person, or be the type of person who likes others. You can take an interest in what they're interested in. Obviously, if they're dealing with ICW, they are interested in insurance, so being a product knowledge guru helps. listening for their needs, knowing their favorite sports teams, their kids' birthdays, um, all very good things to do. But in doing 1 and 2, you still have to be real, make them feel wanted. Something along the lines of, I really enjoy working with you. I would say something like that would go a long way, especially if it's true. Make time for your friend. And this could be stretched to say, make the insurance process easier and faster, therefore saving them time. Sixth here is be dependable. You can say what you mean and follow through and sweat the details. You can check in on them, kind of self-explanatory, but ideally this is not always about work. You can say, here's an article I think you might like, or here's an audiobook recommendation. Giving good advice. And here's a place where I think, specifically on our earthquake business, where our underwriters do an excellent job, getting a little creative in terms of solving their needs. The brokers might say, I want a $10 million policy limit with a 5% per unit deductible. And we might give them 3 different quotes with varying limits and varying deductibles. And depending on the situation, that might actually better fit their needs. So we're willing to go the extra mile. Obviously, doing extra quotes and different options is a little bit more work, but we often find that those actually are the ones that come back with bind orders. Going on to empathize. Sometimes we have to give bad news to the broker, like we can't quote. But we have one underwriter who has developed the ability to say no, but the brokers actually feel bad for her and comfort her. But even when you do have to say no, this is something that we're not interested, we always try to explain the why. So, it's something like, this risk has at-risk attributes that we just can't get our arms around. And if we can't quantify the risks, we won't buy the right amount of reinsurance, and then we can't protect the policyholder if there is a really large earthquake. So something along those lines, and always ending on a hopeful note, like maybe we can hit on the next one. And then the last one here is, show kindness with small gestures. And if you're on the underwriting side of the house, it would be appropriate to send in a thank you card or a note or an email for each bind order. And I firmly believe if we do this in business, I firmly believe that if you you will do business with your friends before you do business with anyone else. I think a friendship approach, or you could even call it a partnership approach, I think it captures the emotions and it definitely builds a bond. And if your best friend calls and needs something, you generally bend over backwards to help them. And so, I was ranking Audible on the friendship score, but if all of our customers ranked ICW on the friendship score from some 0 to 10, and we moved all of our customers from where they are now to 2 points better, I think ICW would double in size almost overnight. So if you're looking for a call to action, I've been told that there are a host of classes that are added to the learning management system, or iLearn. And some of those are on relationship building. I looked at one that it was more focused on building relationships internally, but some of that lessons there could be applied to building relationships outside the organization. So if a quirky little app can penetrate my time protection shield using friendship building tools, maybe we can build ICW up by building up our friendship score too. And I will turn it back over to Jamie for the Q&A.
Thank you, Shawn. Okay, we do have several questions that came in from our viewers at home. Let's start with our first one. Some of the DIC and workers' comp wholesale customers overlap. They work with us for both. What opportunities do you see that could elevate customer experience for this group?
Right. So I think in those situations where you do have overlap, certainly we could, well, not during COVID, but having joint marketing calls. We've actually done some of those in the past when we had a property department, and those went over really well because you're, I guess, presenting with a combined front. Another thing that kind of came to mind in terms of marketing is when we do roll out a CMP product, which Dan is working on, that'll provide some huge opportunities for cross-selling, because we will be able to basically offer a complete a complete package. So it'll be the CMP, the work comp, and the DIC kind of all wrapped together, and I'm certain that we'll be doing joint marketing calls in that regard.
Great. Next question up. Is your team considering any new products or services that could affect our customers?
So right now we're really focused on building up the assumed reinsurance operation. So in terms of providing additional help to comp in terms of marketing new products, probably not. I do know that Travis Nolan and the DIC team they do have some things on the list, but nothing has been granted the green light at this point.
Okay. What do you see as some of the biggest opportunities for growth that would have an impact on our customers?
Well, that one was already kind of teed up there. Like I said, I do believe in focusing on creating more friends and building those relationships up. You'll do business with your friends before you do business with anyone else. So the more we can kind of infuse that into the customer experience, the better off it will be.
Okay. Let's see, next question up. How has COVID impacted your business, and how has this event impacted your customers?
That's a good question. Well, because we do have kind of four functions, we've got the earthquake, the assumed reinsurance, the ceded reinsurance where we're purchasing protection, and then our internal team that kind of builds software and tools. It affects everyone differently, but I'd say the largest impact was probably on the assumed reinsurance side, because it raised the level of awareness of what can go wrong. So there's been a huge demand for reinsurance, and with that large demand, it's increased the rates in the market. It's extremely hard across almost all lines of reinsurance. So that's been a huge impact in terms of a boost, and I guess you'd say the wind beneath our wings, so to speak, in terms of growing the assumed operation. The last piece of that, what was the second question, Jamie? Sorry.
It was, how has this event impacted your customers, impacted your business,
right.
and impacted your customers?
Right. Yeah. So like I said, on all four different fronts that that I'm kind of responsible for, everyone's a little bit different. Like I said, largely the rates are up for DIC, the customers are I guess suffering through rate increases, and on the ceded side, where we are purchasing protection, we're suffering from rate increases too. So I'd say it's been mostly a rate issue. I think broadly, the reinsurance community has also gotten a little more religion, if you will, in terms of some of the throw-in coverages that they've provided. So they're kind of cracking down on those items that may be similar to COVID, and trying to write policy or treaty exclusions in our contracts. But largely, the DIC market is the DIC's earthquake, but that market has been pretty resilient. People keep buying their property insurance in general throughout, and insurance companies almost always keep purchasing their reinsurance. That's almost, there's small changes in attachment points and stuff like that, but you pretty much have to, because the regulators force you to. So it's been, like I said, there hasn't been a huge impact on our customers, like in terms of purchasing or not purchasing insurance. It's been pretty resilient. And the ERM team, they're always busy. So I think that with COVID, they're even busier.
Okay. And as far as communication with agents, how has COVID changed that? Are you finding that you're communicating differently?
Well, we used to do lots of marketing calls and even had some marketing events, and I know that all that is kind of at a standstill. So obviously getting on the phone more and is the best tool we have, and I know that the underwriters have been utilizing that quite a bit. dropping a few more thank you cards in the mail and a few more emails is best that we can do it, at least at this point.
Okay. Well, Shawn, I know from our discussion today, we know that you're a big fan of that Audible app. Were there any learnings that that we can apply here at ICW Group that you've learned from Audible?
Oh, yeah. I might have to write a treaty on all those. But like I said, I'll just focus today on the friendship piece of it.
On the friendship piece.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if there are no other questions from our viewers at home, and Shawn, if you have nothing else to add in closing, we can wrap it up this morning. So that concludes our town hall with Shawn Adams. And our viewers at home, we hope that you have a fantastic time today celebrating CX Day. Bye.
Thank you.